Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week I finally get to talk about one of, if not the most popular shows of this past anime season, Spy X Family. Now, I've not been able to really kind of follow along with current anime seasons, mostly, just because I wasn't really into Crunchyroll and Funimation. It never struck me as something that I wanted to do was, because I was in so much of the binge mode that I wanted to wait for shows to end rather than go week by week by week. But I think watching stuff like Mandalorian and other Marvel shows in the traditional week by week method made me more apt to do it. And there was a lot of hype surrounding Spy X Family. It's kind of the cornerstone of this season, and there were other shows, to be fair. I focused mainly on rewatches of seasons of Ascendance of a Bookworm and Rising of Shield Hero Season 2. One of them was good, one of them not so good. You could probably figure out which is which. But as far as what I kept watching and what hooked me from day one and never stopped was Spy X Family. So much so that when the final sequence ended, I think I found a new favorite anime. And I was kind of shocked because people know my love of Cowboy Bebop. And I was just like, it reminded me of the time that I knew that Persona had arisen to take over Final Fantasy place as my favorite game. It was the same situation. It was the final scene of this Cour, so to speak. Not a full season, but the 12 episodes, 13, that sort of thing. 12 to 13 episodes. Get that done. Wait until October to do the rest of it. So maybe some of the criticism that I do have with this show, which isn't much to be fair, will get answered later on. But when we're talking about Spy X Family, really what we're talking about is the Forger family. We do have to start at the beginning of the plot, and in a kind of pseudo-Berlin, World War II, post-World War II, kind of Cold War-ish European setup, we've got Westalis and we've got Estonia. A secret agent for one of them, who I believe is Westalis, is considered the best of the best of the best. And everybody's in awe of his skill. And this is our main character, kind of the main, of the three, he's the main character. Maybe not the most popular, but the main character, Lloyd Forger. And his designation is Twilight. So you'll hear Twilight and Lloyd here and there. I will mostly just use Lloyd. But he's voiced by Alex Oregon, who was in Psycho-Pass, in Death Parade. Really freaking good shows. I know I reviewed Psycho-Pass before. I'll get to Death Parade at some point. That's another good one. But he plays the straight man. He is absolutely 100% skilled in tactics, disguises, espionage, working through what someone's tics are, what their ideas are, anything to do with analyzing information and using that to his advantage. And then, of course, the physical skills of a spy. He is absolute top-notch. And he has some handlers here and there, mostly Frankie Franklin, but he has some other ones that work with him on this project known as Operation Strix. The idea is he's supposed to meet with this person named Donovan Desmond, who's either making this crazy bomb or this crazy biological project or, human experience. We don't know yet. But the idea is that it's going to cause problems for the war, peacetime, all that shit. So what he has to do is infiltrate Estonia and then create a family. And as a super technical, super tactical, super gruff spy, handsome as shit, but he's gruff and, kind of keeps to himself, but he can fake it, so he goes in and he creates a family. So that's where the family part comes in. So he has to balance out being a spy with faking an adoptive family, but also understanding that as the show goes on, they actually become a sort of pseudo family in their own right, because the other two characters are great. Specifically, Anya Forger, voiced by Megan Shipman. And Megan was in a lot of other smaller shows. I think the biggest one I remember her from was Beaufree, I Maxed Out My Defense. I think she was the main character of that. But she plays Anya just so goddamn well. And Anya is kind of the standout of the show, mostly due to visual expressions, mostly just due to the way they speak, whether you're doing Japanese or English version, the faces she makes, whether it's the heh, smile in mid-season, or more apt is the bug-eyed look that she gets whenever she gets caught doing something naughty. She gets to play herself like a girl would, like a 4-year-old, 6-year-old, what have you. But the trick with Anya is that she is a telepath. She's able to hear other people's thoughts, and whether she's in school, whether she's out and about, whether she's able to do something, she kind of hears people. And it actually, I do like the fact that her telepath nature makes it so she doesn't like to be in crowds much. But whether they're on missions or just out and about as a family, or an outing, as she would put it, she can use that to her advantage. But she's a bit of an idiot. Because, let's face it, she's in this high-class school through shenanigans or whatever. One of the early episodes is this family figuring out every single path to integrate into this school so they can get closer to Desmond. And whether it's Anya herself or Lloyd having ideas for her, they just make it work. And she's in there, and how does she use her admittedly bad intellect to make it work? Because she's not very smart. She was an orphan. She doesn't know all this stuff, and it's kind of played for laughs how she can kind of just cheat her way to things, but they won't let her. So they won't let her cheat for things. So they have to figure out how to get closer to Desmond personally via friendships. It kind of works, kind of doesn't work, or getting these badges versus demerits. There's some names for these things. I think it's like Starlight badges versus Tremestus bolts or something like that. And Anya is able to actually like save people using her telepathy, which is really cool because again, this is a show played for laughs. So how do you ramp up the stakes and use Anya's skill without just going, oh, I'm just gonna steal everything, or I'm just gonna kill everybody, because you could do the thing like the Professor Xavier thing with telepathy and just kill a person, if you try hard. So their rules are in place that like she has them kind of funneling into her head. I know that's been in other shows, and the way that they handle telepathy has been in other shows. I don't know specifically which one it mirrors, but it does mirror that. There are rules regarding it, at least for now. My guess is later on, Anya is going to have more unique telepathy that it can be dangerous and useful. But at the same time, in these episodes, she's played so nice. She is that like emotional core because Lloyd is kind of standoffish because he has to play the straight man because he doesn't want people to know. Anya knows he's a spy. No one else does except his handlers. So it's cool to see how she's just so cool. Just bad voice there. But you see how that is. She's just over the moon knowing that her adoptive father is the super spy, and it's amazing. But rounding it out is Yor Breyer, who becomes Yor Forger. Let's see, Natalie Van Sistine. So again, someone who's been in like mostly new stuff, nothing that I would remember as like a major role until this one. But Yor is an assassin. And again, so cool. According to Anya, she knows her family is super spy, super assassin. Yor's whole thing is that she's just an office worker, but she's also kind of supplementing her income with assassin work. And one of the things I find crazy is the way they kind of go about it is more comedic rather than, oh my god, she's deadly as shit, which is beneficial to an extent. And I'll say what I mean. Your super strength, super speed, all this stuff that she built as an assassin is mostly played out in protecting Anya rather than doing other things, which is kind of neat. But at the same time, you kind of wish that her introduction as a super spy would be focused on about as often as Lloyd's super mission, because Lloyd's mission is the key plot point. Anya gets a lot of screen time in her school and how she interacts with it. Yor kind of doesn't. She gets her like intro as a spy, as an assassin, killing some dudes, and then you see these little instances of, oh my god, she poked a cow and it's knocked out, or she saves Anya from some thugs or whatever, and it's just like, I kind of want her to go on her own missions. Most of the time, she's played for laughs, despite the fact that she is probably the strongest character in the show, as great as Lloyd is. Yor is just physically just amazing. But she's also played kind of dumb, which is endearing, because she's the one that doesn't know if the relationship's going to work, doesn't even know if she can fall for anybody, because she's kind of pressured into it by coworkers. She doesn't really want to do it, I don't think, but coworkers keep saying, oh, you're getting old, you're gonna not get married, blah blah blah, and then it turns around on them. She ends up marrying practically the most perfect person in existence, because he can mold himself into anything. So the interplay between Lloyd as the straight man, Anya as the endearing child who sometimes is stupid, but in a nice way, and Yor, who's played as dumb, but as also the super protective mother figure, it just works. And this show is pretty much those three. You have some other characters here, some of Anya's friends or teachers, some of Lloyd's handlers, and then Yuri Breyer, who's working for an opposition, more like a state military service thing. But the cool thing is that they give the show time to breathe, but they also know when to focus on Lloyd, when to focus on Anya's stuff. And I think maybe in Cour 2, they are going to focus more on like the assassin stuff with Yor, which, like I said, was my main criticism of the 12 episodes. It's only 12 it's 12 episodes. There's only so much time you can devote to everything. But you also have to like keep the momentum of the show going, introduce new elements, but also not go so fast that you're missing things. I think this is a good basic setup for, let's introduce these characters and what they're going through and give you kind of the initial setup, and then eventually we're going to throw shenanigans and more shenanigans and more shenanigans, because this is still a comedy, because it's almost like Konosuba. You can't expect Konosuba to suddenly throw in super dramatic moments or super romantic moments or whatever and make it stick, because you still have to focus on the comedy. Spy X Family, for its faults, is going to be a comedy at the end of the day, and everything's not going to be super serious. You could have made like a super serious version of this, but I don't know if that would have worked so well, because these characters would have not been as effective if it were a more dramatic case. But it still has dramatic moments because the main three characters have so much chemistry going on. It also helps that the visuals and the music all fit together. I read up and said that people were really fond of the action sequences, because again, the visuals are pretty stock. It's a very basic World War II post-war kind of setup. And the characters themselves are expressive, but they're not like, they don't pop out the screen, but they will when they need to. Like Yor, when she gets pissed off, busts out of the screen. Any of Anya's facial expressions, they jump out of the screen in a nice way. So they're very expressive, very expansive. The visuals do enough to suck you in and know what the characters are going for. Same with the music. I think I was hooked on this show mostly because of the opening and ending themes, mixed in nuts and comedy, because they focus on Anya's perspective. They know that Anya is like the character that everybody's going to go for. But again, I think the show's smart, and it's like this isn't told from Anya's perspective 100%. I'd say it's more like Lloyd gets about 40, Anya gets about the other 40, and Yor gets about 20%. And you could probably shift that around depending on what episode you're trying to tell. If you're going to do Anya's thing, you give her most of the focus. If you're going to focus on Lloyd dealing with spy missions, you could do that. I do think that, again, they're going to give Yor more to sink her teeth into. But at the end, those opening and ending themes do show you, like, Anya's this, like, just girl thinking about all of this cool stuff that's happening. She gets to go on these spy missions. She gets to be babysat with a bunch of spies, and she gets to watch this TV show. But then she has to study, which is dumb, and I hate studying, But then she just uses her telepathy in ways you wouldn't think, like a stupid dodgeball tournament, or saving a kid drowning in a pool, or just stuff like that. You're able to use the tools at your disposal in ways that seem very basic, but at the same time, because the characters work so well. And I've said before that I want characters more so than story, because there's only so many stories you can tell. There's only so many permutations before some things start to get the same. And Spy X Family succeeds because of the three main characters, and you want to know what weird shenanigans they get up to. So we got to wait until October to kind of get the next bit. And I haven't read the manga, so I'm not spoiled in anything. I came into this absolutely blind. But the fact that, and it wasn't even like one of the serious scenes. The reason the show ended up working for me so well was one of the ending sequences and one of the dumb sequences where Anya sort of gets in trouble, sort of antagonizes her family, but then they just go out and do stupid shit. And it's like the end of the season, and I was just like, I just started belly laughing at the just absolute stupidity of it. But then you're doing it for the sake of your daughter, and I'm just like, it works so well. And again, I'm shocked that I would put anything over Cowboy Bebop, because Bebop kind of fit that perfect. This works for kids, teenagers, and adults, and has always kind of been that it's got its dumb moments, but it's got its characters. And again, the characters in any show or any form of medium draw you in. It could be the visuals too, it could be the action sequences, and I think Bebop, again, was always that kind of gold standard. But sometimes you need something silly. Sometimes you need something so absurd that you just sit there and go, what the fuck did I just watch? And Spy X Family, for its credit, was that kind of out of nowhere success. I think everybody kind of knew it was going to be the big one, but the level of success that it had, that it, everybody talks about it, everybody's making memes about it, everybody's making the Anya face everywhere. It's successful, and it's a good kind of successful where everybody knows how good it is. And you got some dissenting opinions like, nah, this ain't that great. But I think it fits that perfect. We're not taking ourselves too seriously, but we're giving you something that can be turned very serious if we need to. And as somebody who's on the older side, Spy X Family is that blend of comedy that doesn't take itself like too meta, because we sometimes get into the meta comedy way too often these days. It is self-contained in its own world. It's taking itself as seriously as it can, but knows when to be absurd. And that's what I appreciate most. So I'm very hopeful that the next 12 episodes, the first full season, lives up to what the first 12 episodes did for me. And again, I'm absolutely shocked. I don't know if anybody else is, but I know I was shocked at how good it was. But that'll do it for me today. Next week is going to be Tales of Arise. I loved it until the end, but I want to express why. So we'll do that next week. The next episode, game-wise, after that, will be Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. In between those, we will do Somali and the Forest Spirit. So Tales of Arise, Somali, and the Forest Spirit. A show that should have gotten more, but for certain circumstances didn't get more leeway, more episodes, because it was fairly unique in its own right. So then Legend of Zelda after that, and the next anime after Somali and the Forest Spirit will be Paranoia Agent. One of those shows from mid-2000s that I watched and still sticks with me, despite being very strange, so to speak. Not strictly a horror-themed show, more of a crime thriller, crime comedy, crime drama thing. Paranoia Agent is its own strange beast. And I love it. Has its faults, like anything else does, but Paranoia Agent is memorable for many different reasons. So like I said, we have Tales of Arise, Somali and the Forest Spirit, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, and Paranoia Agent coming up for the next month. So I'm super excited. But that'll do it for me. See you guys next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.